Imagine being 75 years old. Your knees ache. Your balance isn't what it used to be. And the simple act of walking to your mailbox could shatter your hip. Now imagine doing that in a place where the ground is frozen for 8 months of the year, where the nearest hospital is 1,000 miles away, and where a single ambulance ride could cost you more than a brand new car. This isn't a hypothetical. This is daily life for roughly 120,000 Americans right now. Welcome to Alaska in 2026, a state that was built, marketed, and mythologized for the young, the rugged, and the resilient. But somewhere along the way, the last frontier got old, and almost nobody prepared for what comes next. For decades, Alaska sold itself to the world as the ultimate adventure. During the construction of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline in the mid-1970s, a flood of young workers poured into the state, giving Alaska the youngest population in the entire United States. As recently as the year 2000, the median age was just 32. But here's what nobody anticipated. Those young pipeline workers never left. They stayed, they aged, and today, the geography of Alaska is facing a demographic crisis that no one wrote into the brochure. In just 15 years, Alaska's 65 and older population has more than doubled. Seniors now make up 15% of the state's total population. But here's what makes Alaska fundamentally different from Florida or Arizona. Nobody is moving to Alaska to retire. There are no wealthy retirees flooding in to boost the numbers. Alaskans are aging in place. The state's overall population growth has flatlined. The birth rate has dropped by 20% since 2014. The working age population is shrinking. And the last frontier is graying faster than almost anywhere else in the country. So what actually happens when you grow old in a state explicitly built for the young? What does the geography of isolation, extreme weather, and fragmented infrastructure do to your body, your wallet, and your survival odds when you turn 65, 75, or 85? The data reveals a paradox, a place where the cost of surviving old age is mathematically staggering, and yet tens of thousands of people refuse to leave. To understand the reality of aging in Alaska, you first have to look at the healthcare map. Alaska is roughly 1/5 the size of the entire contiguous United States. But its advanced medical infrastructure is heavily concentrated in a single narrow band called the Rail Belt, specifically Anchorage and Fairbanks. If you live in what's called Bush, Alaska, the vast roadless regions made up of hundreds of remote communities, your access to geriatric care, specialized cardiology, or advanced neurology is effectively zero. This geographic bottleneck has created a severe supply and demand crisis. In 2026, the national median cost for assisted living is roughly $6,313 per month. In Alaska, it is the second most expensive in the entire country, sitting at a staggering $10,819 per month. That's over $129,000 a year, just for baseline assisted living, before factoring in specialized nursing or memory care. And the state is facing a brutal healthcare workforce shortage. Alaska consistently struggles to attract and retain specialized medical professionals. The cost of living is too high, and the geographic isolation is too severe for many young doctors to commit long-term. This leaves seniors with a logistical choice most Americans never have to make. If you develop a complex medical condition in rural Alaska, you cannot drive down the highway to a specialist. You have to fly. And that brings us to the most unique aspect of Alaskan healthcare, the 1,000-mile ambulance ride. Medical evacuations, or medevacs, are a routine part of life for older Alaskans in remote towns. If you have a stroke in Dutch Harbor or a heart attack in Nome, a specialized aircraft must be dispatched to fly you to Anchorage or Seattle. Without specific localized coverage, such as specialized medevac memberships that residents purchase for around $99 a year, a single emergency flight can bankrupt a family. Out-of-pocket bills routinely range from $50,000 to over $100,000. In Alaska, your geography dictates your survival rate. So, how do seniors afford any of this? The answer lies in Alaska's unique economic structure, one that offers both massive financial perks and punishing logistical costs. Start with the perks. Alaska has no state income tax and no state sales tax. For seniors who own their homes, there is a highly beneficial senior citizen property tax exemption. If you're 65 or older and qualify for the state's permanent fund dividend, the first $150,000 of your primary residence's assessed value is entirely exempt from property taxes. For someone living on a fixed retirement income, this is a massive financial shield that makes keeping a home viable. But those legislative benefits get swallowed almost entirely by the state's punishing supply chain. This is what's known as the Alaska Premium, the hidden tax of geography. Because almost everything has to be shipped up by barge from Seattle and then distributed by truck or small aircraft, the cost of essential goods is mathematically inflated. A gallon of milk or fresh produce in a remote village can cost 3 to 4 times the national average. Heating fuel, an absolute necessity in a state where winter temperatures regularly plunge below minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit, is subject to massive price spikes. The thousands of dollars saved in property taxes are often entirely consumed by the baseline cost of staying warm and fed. In Alaska, you are legally protected from taxes, but geographically punished by the map. Beyond economics, the physical reality of aging in Alaska is dictated by mobility. The human body naturally loses bone density, balance, and muscle mass after age 60. In Arizona or Florida, the environment is flat, warm, and paved. Alaska is the exact opposite. For 6 to 8 months of the year, the ground is covered in ice, snow, and freezing rain. The simple act of walking to a mailbox or stepping into a car becomes a high-risk physical maneuver. A slip and fall that might leave a 30-year-old with a bruise often leaves a 75-year-old with a shattered hip. To age in place safely, Alaskan homes require aggressive modifications. Wheelchair ramps have to be reinforced to handle heavy snow loads. Driveways require expensive, constant commercial plowing services just to ensure an ambulance can reach the front door. The architecture of a standard Alaskan cabin, built with steep stairs and wood-burning stoves to maximize heat retention, is fundamentally incompatible with the mobility constraints of old age. Then there is the sunlight problem. North of the Arctic Circle, towns experience weeks of total darkness in winter. Even in Anchorage, the winter solstice offers barely 5.5 hours of daylight. For seniors, this exacerbates vitamin D deficiencies directly linked to osteoporosis and drastically increases the prevalence of seasonal affective disorder. The physical environment actively works against the biological realities of aging. Out of this harsh reality, a distinct demographic pattern has emerged: the snowbirds. Many older Alaskans with the financial means adopt a dual geography lifestyle. They live in Alaska during the summer to enjoy the endless daylight and to maintain residency for the dividend. But before the first deep freeze hits in October, they migrate south to states like Washington or Hawaii. For the tens of thousands of seniors who can't afford 2 households, however, they are locked into the Alaskan winter. Their world shrinks. From the vast wilderness they explored in their 30s, down to the heated square footage of their homes in their 70s. The 2026 data paints a clear picture. Alaska is undergoing a profound structural shift. For decades, the state's economy ran entirely on resource extraction: oil, gas, commercial fishing, industries demanding intense physical labor and a young workforce. Now, one of the primary drivers of the state's economy is healthcare, fueled entirely by the booming senior population. Lawmakers are slowly realizing they can no longer just plan for pipelines and ports. They have to figure out how to build assisted living facilities in sub-zero environments. The brain drain is a statistical reality. Young Alaskans are leaving for cheaper housing and broader job markets in the lower 48. But senior retention is equally real. The people who built modern Alaska are refusing to leave it. Living in Alaska after 60 is a testament to human stubbornness. It is mathematically expensive, medically risky, and physically grueling. The geography that once drew people in with the promise of wild freedom eventually becomes a logistical cage. And yet, the 120,000 seniors who remain have made a calculated decision. The extreme costs and the biting cold are simply the price of admission to live in the most geographically spectacular place on the continent. They built their lives in the last frontier, and the data shows definitively that they intend to stay until the very end.